All right, let's get straight to it. If you're a registrar, you already know that keeping registration data totally secure and compliant isn't just important, it's absolutely critical. So today, we're bringing you a detailed, step-by-step explainer on how to properly prepare and submit your escrow deposits to DENIC services. We're talking full compliance with the new RDE Specification 2025. We've taken all that dense technical documentation and, well, distilled it into a clear, no-nonsense process guide. Our goal here? To make absolutely sure your next deposit is successful, secure, and entirely error-free. Let's dive in.
So, what's our roadmap for today? We're looking at 5 main checkpoints. First, preparing your header mapping. Second, migrating your keys to RFC 9580. Third, exporting your data and generating your hash file. Fourth, packing and encrypting everything. And finally, getting that escrow deposit uploaded securely.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, Vorbereitung, or preparation. Specifically, we're looking at your header mapping.
Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is the deal with header mapping? Well, it's basically the Rosetta Stone for your data. It's a mandatory configuration file that guarantees an exact one-to-one match between your specific data fields and the model ICANN actually expects. And listen, this isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. If you submit a deposit in the new format without saving this mapping in the control center, it's going to fail. In fact, after August 20, 2025, that's an automatic rejection. Oh, and a quick pro tip here, when you export your data to define this mapping, make sure you reference the official document titled ICANN how-to_new_registrar_data_escrow_specification 2025 v2.0 PDF. It's basically your blueprint for this step. Before you even touch that export button, we need to make a few decisions. As the registrar, you have to clarify exactly which domain data must be escrowed under RDE Spec 2025. The registration data policy lays out a strict minimum baseline, stuff like the domain name, expiry date, your IANA ID, you know the drill. But then you also need to figure out if you're going to include any optional data fields. And whatever you decide to include, just remember, the field names have to follow strict naming conventions. For example, anything related to a registrant literally has to start with the prefix RT. To put that into perspective, an optional domain file layout translates those rules directly into CSV field names, like RT name or RT city. And here is a super important, kind of easily missed technical detail. When you're building this CSV layout, the field names for ICANN RDE Spec must absolutely never end with a trailing dot. Seriously, it's a tiny little detail, but skipping it will trigger an automated rejection later on. Once you've got your mapping totally dialed in based on your data, it's time to upload it. This part is super easy. Just log into the DENIC Services Control Center, head over to My Account, and click on ICANN Header Mapping. You can literally just copy the content of your CSV file, paste it right into the text box, and hit Save. Done and dusted.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, migrations off RFC 9580. This is where we upgrade your cryptography.
So under the new RDE Spec 2025, those old RSA keys, yeah, they are officially becoming a thing of the past. The new gold standard is RFC 9580. Honestly, if you try to use an RSA key after January 21, 2027, the system will just flag it as invalid and throw an error. So you absolutely have to check your current keys and generate a new key pair that uses these updated algorithms for encryption and signatures. Let's be incredibly specific about which algorithm you should use for those digital signatures. DENIC Services highly recommends creating a new version 6 OpenPGP key using ED25519. Let me say that one more time just to be crystal clear. ED25519. But, and this is a massive but, do not use DNPG or GPG4Win for this. Even if you try to configure DNPG to use ED25519, it just doesn't support the version 6 format that the new standard demands. You've got to use a fully compliant tool like Sequoia PG or GOpenPG. Got that shiny new version 6 key? Great. Head back to the control center, go to the PGP key management page, paste in your public key, making sure it includes that begin PGP public key block header so it's fully ASCII armored, and hit save. The system will handle the validation for you on the spot. Now that all our prep and crypto are sorted, let's jump into Section 3, Export and Hasherstellung. This is where we actually start building the deposit. The actual compilation of your escrow deposit comes down to a really strict 5-step execution phase. We export, we hash, we zip, we sign and encrypt, and then we upload. Let's break these down step by step. Step 1 is a breeze, but you've got to be precise. You export your domain data exactly as you defined it back in phase 1. If the data format doesn't perfectly match that header mapping you just saved in the control center, the automated validation is going to bounce it right back. Okay, step 2. You need to create a hash sum file based on your unencrypted, unsigned CSV deposit, which will contain either just the full deposit or both the full and the handle deposit. But the absolute key here is the strict naming convention. It has to look exactly like this: your ionic ID underscore RDE underscore the date underscore hash.txt. So, for example, if your ionic ID is 9002 and the date is June 22nd, 2026, your file name must be 9002 underscore RDE underscore 2026-06-22.hash.txt. Moving on to section 4, Packen and Verschlüsseln, packing and encrypting. Honestly, this is historically where the most errors happen, so paying close attention right here is going to save you and your team a lot of headaches later. Step 3 is zipping the files, and the golden rule here is that they must be zipped individually. Do not, under any circumstances, lump them together into one giant archive. Your full deposit goes into its own dedicated zip file. If you have a handle deposit for contact data, that gets its own zip file too. So if you have both, you are walking away from this step with 2 completely separate zip files.
Step 4. All right, listen up, because this distinction is absolutely crucial. You have to sign and encrypt those zipped full and handle files, but you use completely different keys for each action. You must sign the files using your own Registrar PGP key. That's the ED25519 key you just made. But you must encrypt the files only using the DENIC service's PGP key. Actually, scratch that. Let me reiterate. Sign with your key, encrypt only with their key. And that brings us to a major format warning tied to the new RFC 9580 standard. Remember how we said the public key you pasted into the control center had to be ASCII armored? Well, your actual encrypted escrow deposit files, the ones you're about to upload, must not be ASCII armored. Make sure you hardcode that distinction into your automated scripts or your deposit won't go through.
Almost at the finish line. Section 5. Upload the escrow deposits. Step 5 is delivery. Everything is perfectly packaged up. Now, you just need to send it over to DENIC services. You're going to upload the unencrypted text hash file, along with your individually signed and encrypted zip files. You can drop them off via a secure SF-TOP connection, or if you prefer working via command line, you can use the DENIC Escrow Darty client to push the files to us. So, we've walked through the whole process. The big question now is, are your systems ready for your next deposit? Getting this right, perfecting the header mapping, switching over to the RFC 9580 standard, it isn't just about dodging annoying error emails. It's really about guaranteeing the long-term security of the global domain ecosystem. Of course, if things do go sideways, maybe validation fails, or you're pulling your hair out trying to generate that new UED 25519 key, don't sweat it. You can always reach out to the DENIC escrow support team. Just be sure to send along your IANA ID and whatever specific error message you're getting. Changing up cryptographic standards can feel like a lot, but by following these exact steps, you're making the whole system safer. So, what part of your automated script are you going to update first? Take a look under the hood today, and thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.